Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I'm Daniel, 34, a software engineer from Seattle, where the autumn rain of 2024 fell like a coded message, tapping relentlessly against the windows of our Capitol Hill apartment. For 12 years 8 married, for before that Claire and I had woven a life together, a tapestry of shared mornings, quiet evenings, and a love I believed was unshakable. I thought we were a team, navigating life's chaos with a rhythm that felt safe, familiar, ours. But love, if learned, can unravel silently, thread by thread, until you're left clutching frayed ends, wondering how you missed the moment it all began to fall apart. Claire was a freelance illustrator, her sketches filling our home with bursts of color and imagination. Her art was her soul, vibrant, chaotic, alive. I'd watch her work at our dining table, a reclaimed oak piece we'd found at a flea market, her brow furrowed, charcoal smudging her fingers as she conjured fantastical worlds, whimsical forests with talking trees, dreamlike cityscapes glowing under imaginary moons, characters that seemed to breathe on the page. Her sketch pads were scattered everywhere on the couch, the kitchen counter, even the bathroom sink, each one a window into her mind. I was her opposite, methodical, grounded, my days spent untangling bugs in code, building systems that ran like clockwork. Where her mind danced with possibilities, mine sought order, logic, solutions. It'd spend hours debugging apps, ensuring every line was perfect, while she'd lose herself in a single stroke of her pencil, oblivious to time. Together, we balanced each other. Also, I thought, our mornings were a sacred ritual. It'd brew coffee in our French press, the rich aroma of dark roast filling the kitchen, while she hummed off-key, spreading raspberry jam on toast with the precision of a surgeon. Evenings, we'd collapse on our worn leather couch, her feet in my lap, debating whether to rewatch The Office for the 10th time or try some indie film she'd found on an art blog she followed religiously. It was comfortable, predictable, a life I cherished. But predictability, if since learned, can be a cage for someone whose heart craves chaos. The first cracks appeared in late spring, subtle as a glitch in a program don't notice until it crashes. Around May, Claire started staying late at her downtown studio, a shared space shed rented with other artists in a converted warehouse near Pioneer Square. She'd come home later each week, her hair slightly mussed, her eyes bright but distant, blaming tight deadlines for clients I never met. "It's just a big project," she'd say, her voice casual but her gaze fixed on some point beyond me, maybe the rain-streaked window or the half-finished sketch on the table. Her phone, once tossed carelessly beside her sketch pads, became a constant companion, screen tilted just out of my view. She'd laugh at texts, a quick, bright sound that used to be mine, then wave it off with, "Oh, just a client being funny." I didn't push. I trusted her. Trust was the foundation of our marriage, the invisible glue that held our life together. I'd built my world around that trust, believing it was mutual, unshakable. I'd always seen trust as binary, on or off, true or false, but I was wrong. Trust, if come to realize, can be a blindfold, hiding truths you're not ready to face. By June, the changes were harder to ignore. Claire started wearing new perfumes, floral and sharp, nothing like the soft vanilla scent she'd worn since we met in our mid-20s at a tech conference in Portland. I'd been a nervous grad student, presenting a paper on machine learning, when I saw her sketching attendees in a corner, her energy a spark that lit up my structured world. She'd drawn me that day, a quick caricature that exaggerated my glasses and shy smile, and it'd fallen for her before we even spoke. Now, that energy felt directed elsewhere. Her wardrobe shifted to new dresses in bold colors, deep reds and emerald greens, outfits she'd wear to meetings that left no trace of paint or charcoal on her hands. She'd come home with smudges on her sleeves, but her fingers were clean, as if she hadn't touched a pencil all day. She'd linger in the bathroom after late-night showers, the soft glow of her phone illuminating the crack under the door as she texted furiously. Her laugh, once a sound that warmed me, felt borrowed, like it belonged to someone I didn't know. I'd lie awake at night, her breathing soft and steady beside me. Wondering who she was dreaming of, I told myself it was nothing. I was swamped at work, leading a team building a mobile app for a client, a project that demanded late nights and endless revisions. The app, a fitness tracker with social features, was a beast buggy code, demanding stakeholders, and a deadline that loomed like a storm cloud. I'd come home drained, my mind tangled in algorithms, and maybe that's why I didn't push harder. Maybe I was projecting my stress, seeing shadows where there were none. But doubt is a weed, and once it's planted, it grows roots you can't rip out. I'd catch myself watching her, analyzing her movements like lines of code, searching for errors. The way she'd leave her phone face down, the way she'd change the subject when I asked about her art collective, a group she'd joined to network with other creatives, set off alarms I couldn't silence. Her stories about her day grew vague. Hours unaccounted for, like pieces missing from a puzzle. She'd talk about her collective, but her voice would shift to bright, to fast, like she was reciting lines from a script. I'd nod, sip my coffee, and try to bury the unease, but it lingered, a low hum in the back of my mind. July brought more signs, each one a pebble in the pile building in my gut. Claire started mentioning a new project, a mural for a local cafe, but the details were hazy. No client name, no deadline, just vague references to collaboration. She'd come home later, her eyes sparkling with a fire I hadn't seen in months. But when I asked about her day, she'd deflect, talking about abstract concepts like creative freedom or finding her voice. I wanted to believe her, to chalk it up to her passion for her art, but the gaps in her stories grew wider. I'd find myself staring at her sketchpad, left open on the dining table, filled with drawings I didn't recognize, stark cityscapes, angular and moody, a departure from her usual whimsical style. Were they inspired by someone else? I pushed the thought away, but it kept creeping back, persistent as a bug in my code. I started overanalyzing everything, my engineer's brain turning our marriage into a problem to solve. It'd replay our conversations, searching for clues, dissecting her words like lines of code. Had she always been this distant, or was I just noticing it now? Had I missed something fundamental, some need I hadn't met? I thought back to our early years, when we'd stay up late in our first apartment, a cramped studio in Belltown, talking about our dreams, hers to illustrate children's books, mine to build software that made a difference. We'd been so aligned, so in sync, laughing over burnt dinners and cheap wine, planning a future that included kids, a house, a dog. When had that changed? I remembered moments when she'd seemed restless, talking about wanting more from her art, about feeling stuck in her 30s. It brushed it off as creative frustration, told her she was talented, that she'd find her way. Had I been too dismissive, too focused on my own goals to see her struggling? The first real blow came in September. I'd left work early, a rare half-day to surprise Claire with takeout from her favorite Thai place on Pine Street, a spot we'd discovered during our first year in Seattle. The apartment was empty, the air too still, her sketchpad open on the dining table. The drawings were unfamiliar jagged lines, shadowed buildings, a cityscape that felt like a stranger's vision. Her phone buzzed on the counter, and I don't know what made me look. Call it instinct, call it a moment of weakness, call it the culmination of months of ignored warnings. A text from someone named Ethan. Missed you today. Same time tomorrow. No context, no explanation, just those words, sharp as a blade, cutting through the haze of my denial. I didn't confront her that night. I'm not built for snap decisions. I'm the guy who stares at a bug in code for hours, testing every variable before acting. Maybe Ethan was a client, a collaborator, a friend. Maybe I was reading too much into it. But the text looped in my head, a persistent error I couldn't debug. I sat there, the Thai food growing cold, replaying every moment of the past few months, the late nights, the new perfumes, the way her laugh had changed. I wanted to believe it was nothing, but my gut screamed otherwise. I put her phone back, exactly as I'd found it, and when she came home, I forced a smile, handed her the takeout, and said nothing. But the seed of doubt had sprouted, and there was no going back. Over the next few weeks, I became a detective in my own life, hating myself for it. I noticed everything: her clean hands despite paint smudges on her clothes, the way she'd dodge questions about her day, offering vague summaries that left gaps I couldn't fill. I started checking her phone when she was in the shower, each glance a betrayal of the man I thought I was. The texts were vague but damning. Can't stop thinking about you. Meet me at the loft. No explicit confession, but enough to make my stomach churn, my nights sleepless. I'd lie beside her, her breathing soft and steady, and feel like a stranger in my own bed. Who was Ethan? A client? A friend? A lover? The word felt like acid in my mind, burning away the trust I'd clung to for so long. I'd stare at the ceiling, my mind racing, trying to piece together a timeline. When had it started? How had I missed it? I'd think of our wedding, in a small garden outside Seattle, her in a simple white dress, her eyes bright with tears as she vowed to love me forever. Had she meant it then, or was it always a lie? Work became my refuge, but even there, I was unraveling. My code was sloppy, bugs piling up like my unspoken fears. My team noticed. My manager, Priya, pulled me aside one day, her dark eyes soft with concern. "You okay, Don? You're not yourself." I lied, said it was just stress, but the truth was I was drowning. The app project was a mess, my focus shot, my patience thin. I'd snap at colleagues, then apologize, hating the person I was becoming. My friend Ryan noticed too. During a rare night out at a dive bar on First Avenue, a grungy spot with sticky tables and cheap beer. "You look like hell, Don," he said, sliding a pint across the table. I spilled everything: the texts, the late nights, the way Claire's eyes didn't light up for me anymore. Ryan didn't sugarcoat it. "She's cheating, man. You gotta confront her, or it'll eat you alive." He was right, but confronting her meant facing a truth I wasn't ready for, a truth that could shatter everything. I tried to talk to Claire, to bridge the gap without accusing her. One night, over dinner pasta I'd overcooked in my distraction, I asked about her collective, about her mural project. "It's going well," she said. Her voice clipped, her eyes on her plate. "Just busy." I pressed, gently, asking who she was working with, hoping she'd mention Ethan. Give me something to hold on to. She didn't. Instead, she changed the subject, talking about a new gallery opening she wanted to attend, her voice bright but hollow. I nodded, my appetite gone, the pasta congealing on my plate. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but fear held me back. What if I was wrong? What if I was right? I'd lose her either way, and the thought was a weight I couldn't bear. October brought the breaking point. I was home early, working on a client's app from our dining table, the rain pounding outside like a drumbeat. Claire had said she was meeting a client downtown, but her sketch pad was still there, pencils untouched. On impulse, I opened her laptop, her email already logged in. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe nothing, maybe a confirmation of my worst fears. There it was, a thread with Ethan, a photographer from her art collective. The emails were raw, unguarded talk of secret meetups in his loft near Pioneer Square, stolen moments in coffee shops, feelings she'd never shared with me. One line seared itself into my brain. "I feel alive with you, like him, finally myself." I read it again and again, each word a splinter under my skin. 12 years, and she felt alive with someone else. The emails painted a vivid, devastating picture. They'd met at an art event in May, a gallery opening she'd invited me to, but had skipped, to buried in work. What started as professional collaboration, her illustrations paired with his photography, turned into coffee dates at a cafe near the waterfront, then clandestine meetings in his loft. She wrote about feeling seen by him, about how he understood her art in a way I never could. She described moments that cut me to the core, a night they'd spent talking until dawn, a walk through Pike Place where he'd bought her a flower, a moment when she realized she was falling for him. There were details that haunted me: a specific coffee shop, a song they'd listened to, a joke that made her laugh. I read until my eyes burned, until my chest ached with a pain I couldn't name. I wasn't enough. Our life, our home, Our love, it wasn't enough. I sat there, the laptop screen glowing in the dim apartment, my world collapsing pixel by pixel. I thought of every moment we'd shared, every promise we'd made. Our first date, at a bookstore cafe, where she'd sketched me on a napkin, her smile shy but bold. Our wedding, in that garden outside Seattle, her in a simple white dress, her eyes bright with tears as she vowed to love me forever. Our first apartment, a cramped studio in Belltown, where we'd laughed over burnt dinners and dreamed of the future. The hikes in the Cascades, where we'd sit on mountaintops, her sketching the view, me planning our next adventure. Had it all been a lie? Or had I failed her, become too comfortable, too predictable, too blind to her needs? I wanted to blame her, to hate her, but part of me wondered if he'd driven her to this, if he'd let our love stagnate. When Claire came home, I was still at the table, her laptop open. I didn't yell, I couldn't. I was too hollowed out, like a program stripped of its core functions. "Who's Ethan?" I asked, holding up the screen. Her face went pale, her bag slipping to the floor. For the first time, she didn't lie. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, tears streaming down her face. "It just did." She told me enough to break me completely. Ethan was more than a collaborator. They'd been meeting for months, first for work, then for coffee, then for things she couldn't fully articulate. She said she loved me, but felt trapped, like our life was a script she hadn't written. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said, her voice cracking. "I didn't want to hurt you." But she had, and the hurt was a living thing, clawing at my chest, stealing my breath. I asked questions I didn't want answers to. When, where, why. She answered in fragments, each one a shard of glass, a kiss in June, a night in July, a confession of feelings in August. She swore it wasn't physical beyond that, but the emotional betrayal cut deeper. She'd given her heart to someone else, and I hadn't even noticed. I sat there, numb as she cried, her words a blur. I wanted to hate her, to scream, to throw something, but all I could feel was emptiness. I thought of the life we'd built, the late night talks, the hikes, the way she'd teased me about my terrible cooking. I thought of the future we'd planned, the kids we'd talked about, the house we'd dreamed of buying in the suburbs. Had it all been a lie? Or had I been so focused on my own goals, my own routines, that I'd missed her slipping away? I wanted to ask her why she didn't talk to me, why she didn't tell me she was unhappy, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I just sat there, the rain pounding outside, mirroring the storm inside me. We tried to salvage it. Therapy twice a week, in a sterile office downtown, where we sat across from each other, strangers in a room full of words. The therapist, Dr. Larson, a kind woman with a knack for asking hard questions, pushed us to be honest. Claire admitted she'd felt stifled, like her art was suffocating under the weight of our routines. She talked about her 30s, about feeling lost, about needing to rediscover herself. She said she'd felt invisible, like I didn't see her anymore, not the way Ethan did. I admitted I'd been distant, too focused on work, too comfortable in our predictability. I'd thought our life was enough, that our routines were a comfort, not a cage. I'd missed the signs: her restlessness, her late-night sighs, her talk of wanting more. It brushed it off as creative frustration, told her she was talented, that she'd find her way. Had I been too dismissive, too focused on my own goals to see her struggling? We tried date nights, forcing conversation over candlelit dinners at restaurants we used to love, like the Italian place on Queen and where we'd celebrated our first anniversary. We'd sit across from each other, smiling like actors in a play, but the air was thick with betrayal. I'd watch her cut her food, her movements precise, and wonder if she was thinking of Ethan. I'd try to talk about our future, about the trips we'd planned, the house we wanted, but the words felt hollow, like code that wouldn't compile. We made promises to communicate, to rebuild, to try. But every time I looked at her, I saw his name, her words about feeling alive. I'd wake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment I'd missed: the late nights, the new perfumes, the way she'd stopped reaching for my hand. I'd see her sketch pad, filled with drawings that weren't for me, and wonder if Ethan had inspired them. Trust, once shattered, doesn't glue back together. The pieces are too jagged, the gaps too wide. The therapy sessions were grueling, a battlefield of emotions neither of us was equipped to navigate. Claire cried often, her guilt a heavy shadow. I wanted to comfort her, to be the husband I'd always been, but I couldn't. My anger was quiet, but constant, a low hum beneath every word. I'd catch myself staring at her, searching for the woman I'd married, the one who'd laughed with me on mountaintops, who'd sketched my face in the margins of her notebooks. Was she still there, or had Ethan taken her too? I'd ask myself if I failed her, if my focus on work, on stability, had pushed her away. Dr. Larson said I hadn't, that Claire made a choice, but self-blame is a hard habit to break. It dissects our marriage, searching for the moment it went wrong. Was it the long hours I'd spent at work, the way I'd stopped asking about her dreams, or was it her, needing something I could never give? I started noticing the small things I'd ignored, the way she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring to avoid getting paint on it, the way she'd leave her sketch pads closed, as if hiding them from me. I'd think about our early days, when she'd show me every sketch, her eyes bright with excitement, asking for my thoughts. I'd never been an artist, but I'd loved her passion, loved being part of her process. When had that stopped? I remembered a night last year, when she'd talked about wanting to exhibit her work, to make a mark. I'd nodded, supportive but distracted, my mind on a work deadline. Had that been the moment she started to drift? Or was it earlier, when we'd settled into our routines, when he'd stopped surprising her with little gestures, like the time he'd hidden a love note in her sketch pad? I'd thought our love was enough, that our history would carry us through. But love, if learned, needs tending, like a program that needs constant updates to stay functional. By December, we separated. I moved into a cramped studio apartment in Fremont, boxes stacked against the walls, unopened. Claire kept our place, her sketches, her life. I kept the pain, a constant companion that followed me everywhere. The apartment was too quiet, the absence of her humming a void I couldn't fill. I'd cooked dinner for one, the kitchen sterile without her mess of art supplies, charcoal pencils, watercolor brushes, scraps of paper scattered like confetti. I'd find relics of our life, a receipt from a hike we took in the Olympics, a note she'd left in my laptop bag saying love you, nerd, and the hurt would flood back, sharp and raw. I threw myself into work, coding late into the night, fixing bugs with a precision I couldn't apply to my life. I started running again, pounding the pavement along the Burke-Gilman Trail, the rhythm of my feet drowning out the noise in my head. Each mile was a step away from the past, but the past clung to me, stubborn and heavy. Friends tried to help. Ryan dragged me 2 bars, forcing me to talk, to laugh, to pretend I was okay. We'd sit at our usual spot, a dive called the Rusty Anchor, where the jukebox played the same tired songs and the beer was always cold. He'd tell stories about his own dating disasters, trying to pull me out of my head, but he'd only half listen, my mind replaying Claire's emails. My sister, Emily, sent long texts from Portland, checking in with a persistence that both comforted and exhausted me. She'd invite me to visit, promising home-cooked meals and a chance to escape, but I couldn't face the questions, the pity in her eyes. Priya, my co-worker, invited me to game nights with her friends, a group of techies and artists who welcomed me without questions. We'd play board games, Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride, laughing over strategy and snacks, and for a few hours, it'd feel normal, like I wasn't carrying a wound no one could see. But their sympathy, however well-meaning, felt like pity, and pity stung almost as much as Claire's betrayal. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself, it was the aftermath. The silence of my new apartment, the empty side of the bed, the way my routines felt hollow without her. I'd walk past our favorite coffee shop on Broadway, the Bean Haven, where we'd spent Sundays sketching and coding side by side, her pencil scratching paper, my laptop humming. I'd see her in every corner, laughing, her hair catching the light, her coffee cup smudged with her lipstick. I'd drive past her studio, my heart pounding, then curse myself for caring. I'd check her social media, see a new sketch, or a cryptic post chasing light-hand spiral into questions I couldn't answer. Was she still with Ethan? Were they building a life together? Did she ever miss me? I'd hate myself for looking, for caring, but I couldn't stop. I saw Claire once, in February, at a cafe near Pike Place. She was alone, her sketch pad open, her face softer than I remembered, like the weight of our marriage had lifted from her shoulders. She was sketching, her pencil moving with the same intensity I'd always loved, her hair falling over one eye. I stood outside, watching through the window, torn between anger and longing. I wanted to walk in, to ask if she was happy, if Ethan was worth it, if she ever missed the life we'd had. I wanted to know if she regretted it, if she ever woke up at night thinking of me. But I didn't. What could I say? We were strangers now, bound only by memories I wished I could erase. I started rebuilding, piece by piece. Running became a therapy. Each mile a small victory. I'd run along the trail, the Seattle skyline fading into dusk, until my lungs burned, until the pain in my body drowned out the pain in my heart. Work steadied me fixing bugs, building apps, creating order in a world that felt chaotic. I joined a hiking group, met people who didn't know me as Claire's husband, who didn't look at me with pity. Their names Leela, Sam, Javier became anchors, new connections that reminded me I could fully exist outside of us. Leela, a botanist with a dry sense of humor, taught me about native plants on our hikes, pointing out salal and sword ferns with a passion that made me smile. Sam, a musician, shared playlists that drowned out my darker thoughts, indie tracks that filled my runs with rhythm. Javier, a graphic designer, talked shop with me, reminding me of the passion I'd once shared with Claire. They were small steps, but they mattered. I even went on a date, a quiet dinner with Priya at a sushi place in Fremont. She laughed easily, her dark eyes warm, and didn't ask about my past. We talked about work, about sci-fi novels, about the absurdity of Seattle's traffic. It wasn't love, but it was a start, a reminder that I could feel something again. I'd catch myself smiling, then feel guilty, as if moving on was a betrayal of the life I'd lost. But I was tired of being defined by that loss, tired of being the guy whose wife cheated. I wanted to be Daniel again, not the husk Claire had left behind. I started therapy on my own after we stopped couple sessions. Dr. Larson helped me unpack the layers of pain, guilt, and anger. She asked hard questions. Why did I feel responsible for Claire's choices? What did I want my life to look like now? I didn't have answers at first, but talking helped. I realized I'd been so focused on our marriage, on being a good husband, that I'd lost sight of myself. It defined my worth through Claire, through us. Her betrayal wasn't just a loss of love, it was a loss of identity. Who was I without her? I'm still figuring that out, but I'm starting to like the person I'm becoming. Healing isn't linear. Some days, I'd find an old photo of us smiling on a hike in the Cascades, arms around each other. The mountains stretching out behind us, and the hurt would surge back, as fresh as the day I read her emails. I'd wonder if she was still with Ethan, if they were building a life together, if she ever thought of me. I'd drive past her studio, my heart pounding, then curse myself for caring. I'd check her social media, see a new sketch or a cryptic post finding my way, and spiral into questions I couldn't answer. Was she happy? Did she regret it? Did she ever love me the way I loved her? Other days, it'd feel lighter, like the weight was lifting. I'd laugh with Ryan over a beer, or lose myself in a new project at work, or stand at the top of a trail, the Seattle skyline spread out below, and feel like I was enough. Some days, I think about the what-ifs. What if I'd gone to that gallery opening? What if I'd asked more questions, noticed her restlessness sooner? What if I'd been less predictable, more spontaneous, more like the man she fell in love with? I think about the early days, when we'd dance in our tiny kitchen to old jazz records, or drive to the coast on a whim, laughing under the stars. I think about the moments I took for granted, assuming we'd have forever to make more. But those questions don't change the past. Claire made a choice, and in making mine, to move forward, to rebuild, to find joy in the small things, a good run, a clean line of code, a laugh with friends. I'm not there yet, but I'm closer than I was. I'm learning to love myself again, to believe I'm enough, even without her. I don't hate Claire, not really. I hate what she did, how she chose to break us instead of talking to me. I hate that she found something in Ethan she couldn't find in me. I hate that I didn't see it coming, that I let myself believe we were untouchable. But I'm learning to let go, to forgive not for her, but for me. I'm learning to trust again, to believe in love without checking for cracks. It's slow, messy work, but I'm getting there. I'm finding pieces of myself I didn't know were missing, building a life that's mine, not ours. I'm learning to live with the scars, to see them not as wounds, but as proof I survived. Thank you for listening to my story. It's raw, it's real, and it's taken everything to tell it. It's not just about betrayal, it's about the slow, painful work of rebuilding, of finding yourself when the life you knew is gone. It's about the quiet moments of resilience, the small victories that add up, the hope that lingers even after everything falls apart. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, or if you just want to dive into more stories that cut to the heart of what it means to be human, subscribe to the End Stories channel. There's a whole world of experiences waiting for you there, stories of love, loss, betrayal, and redemption. Each one a reminder that we're all navigating this messy, beautiful thing called life.